and welcome back to my channel. And welcome to a video that one of y'all actually screenshotted this video and was like, hey, I'd really like to hear your thoughts, what you would pick for these questions. So it is a tag video. I always find it interesting when I feel the need to explain things when I've got the thumbnail and I've got the title. But I digress. It is a tag video, and today we're going to be talking about the drugstore makeup tag, which was created by Jen Phelps. I will leave her channel and correlating video down below. As I'm sure most of you all know at this point on my channel, your girl does love her bougie, pricey, high-end stuff. But I also have a fond appreciation for all things affordable. And if I've said it once on this channel, I've said it 1,000 times. That whole discrepancy with price point where higher means quality and lower not so much. The divide is coming in. And you can find so many fan-tucking, fastic, affordable products. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We got 17 questions, all having to do with affordable and drugstore. I will leave the questions linked down, not linked, in my description box. If any of y'all want to take these and go do your own thing, all sorts of things will be linked and all that jazz. But without further ado, let's just get into these. Number one, if you could use one drugstore / affordable brand, what would it be? Probably for just the sake of how much I use from them, I would probably have to say ColourPop. I know that's not drugstore, it is a more affordable brand, but just for the fact that I use a lot of their eyeshadows, a lot of their blush, I have some highlighters that I like. I have some skincare, setting spray, and foundation that I like. I feel like out of all of the affordable brands that I use, ColourPop is one that just has the majority of products that I like. Like Physicians Formula, I like their foundation. Juvia's Place, I like their blush and their liquid lipstick. I'm not really CoverGirl, have got a few things. Wet n Wild, foundation and liquid lipstick. Just looking at all the other affordable and drugstore brands, because part of the problem with drugstore, if you've got Revlon, Maybelline, L'Oreal, those aren't cruelty free. So I feel that kind of kicks out 3 of the major drugstore facets. So I'm just gonna have to go in with ColourPop. I'm sorry for all of my across the pond followers and viewers. I know y'all can't get that shiz without it being super expensive. But for me and all my whatever, I just have to say ColourPop, because there isn't, with all the other whatevers, there just aren't enough products from other companies that make enough for me to be like, yeah, I'd only ever use that one and only be able to use lipstick. Number 2, what's the most underrated drugstore / affordable brand? I feel like, I'm not sure with the brand on a whole, but I feel like a lot of CoverGirl products are really underrated and overlooked. Like those, the peach blushes, they've got those peach highlighters, even their new highlighters, the new blushes that they came out with, that new foundation they came out with. I remember there was another blush, the true naked, no, some kind of true something color situation. I feel like there are just a lot of things that CoverGirl comes out with that people just kind of breeze past. And I do believe that is kind of the case with a lot of those big box beauty brands in the drugstore, like CoverGirl, L'Oreal, Revlon, Maybelline, that whole situation. Because there are just so many other affordable brands that you can find at Target, at Walgreens, online, Ulta. The days of those particular companies being the standard for affordable is over. But CoverGirl, I think a lot of people sleep on, and they have a lot of products that are just really severely underrated. What's the most overrated drugstore affordable brand? I mean, at this point, I'm probably gonna have to say Wet n Wild. I mean, back in the day, they were sort of a tried and true, super affordable, you know, they were innovative for the price point, they were cruelty-free, they were vegan in some aspects. But nowadays, like, I feel like they've got a little too much of themselves in up themselves. Cause like they're releasing all those boxes and those whatevers and they're like, all right, we started out at $25. I guess we'll charge $65 now. I'm like, no, it's affordable. You need to calm the flip down. So I feel like Wet n Wild, it had its moment. It's like golden glory. Whereas now they're like, come on, hype, we're doing a Pac-Man collection, we're doing a Sanrio collection, we're doing like just ugh. And they're making these big old whatever collections, and I'm not gonna deny a lot of their products are really good, but I feel like anymore with their inconsistency and with whatever, they're just not what I'm checking for at the drugstore anymore. Not that they're a bad company, I just feel that once again, compared to other whatever, they're just kind of overrated and overhyped for what it is. They're just really all like, we do fun collaborations and we make fancy boxes, PR boxes that people want, and we send out and then people upcharge $150 for on eBay. They need to calm down and take it back to their roots, stop selling in China, bring it back to the beginning and give us those straightforward, fantastically formulated, affordable products. Number 4, what is your favorite drugstore product under $5? I love how this question comes after all the trash talking I did to Wet n Wild because I adore their makeup sponge. It is one of the best $4 I have ever spent. I have purchased the Real Techniques. That is my second favorite sponge. I have purchased the Beauty Blender. I trashed it. The Wet n Wild sponge for $4 is one of the best sponges on the market in my opinion. I absolutely love that shiz. It has lasted me a long time. It has worked better than Beauty Blender. I like it more than the Real Techniques. I like it more than my Kaleidos makeup one. I've tried I'm not sure what brand it was. I've tried a bunch of sponges. And the Wet n Wild one really is one of the ones that just stands the test of time. I have repurchased it. I've kind of got my stock because Wet n Wild isn't cruelty free anymore. But if you're like not on the whatever cruelty free and you want a really good affordable sponge, I don't know what they did to it. I like it more than the Beauty Blender. $4, it's a steal. Number 5, what is a hidden gem from the drugstore that no one talks about? Insert from CoverGirl, their highlighter, their blush, their face palettes, that new foundation that they came out with. I love those peach punch blushes so much. If you love you a peachy, glowy, ethereal, illuminated from within sort of blush, take yourself down to Walmart and get you some of that shiz. They're under $10. They're very comparable, I would say, to the Too Faced, like the Sweethearts Love Flush boxed blushes, where they just kind of have that light, illuminated, healthy, glowy finish. And y'all know your girl loves a peachy complexion. Number 6, what's your favorite drugstore foundation? I want any of y'all who know me to leave your guess down below. Got it? We tallied our guesses. We know what it is. The Physicians Formula, the Healthy Foundation. This is in my top 3 end-all be-all foundations. If you love the Josie Maran Argan Oil Vibrancy Fluid Foundation and you don't got like the $48, get you this shiz. It is spot on. It is what I have on my complexion today. Absolutely amazing fan-tucking fastic foundation. It is a light to, I'd say light and a half. Doesn't quite breach medium. It's a very natural, skin-like, healthy, dewy, glowy sort of finish that just looks like your skin, but better. It's what I wore to my best friend's wedding. It's what I wore to my brother's wedding, and it wore like an absolute dream. I have talked about this foundation for a very long time, and it is currently the only non-cruelty-free beauty product that I purchase. It's only like $13, and the Josie Moran one is $48. Number 7, what products do you tend to buy more at the drugstore versus high-end? It took me a little bit of thinking to like be like, okay, all right, kind of narrow it down, because looking at my collection and thinking about what I have, it's fairly even. Like, I've got a crap ton of high-end highlighters. I got a crap ton of affordable highlighters. High-end blush, affordable blush. Definitely not a lot of affordable or drugstore eyeshadow, but everything else was just pretty evened out. But I did notice that for the most part, it's so obscure. It's just a random part of my collection. But I have comparatively a lot more affordable concealers than I do high end. Like, I've got e.l.f., I've got Milani, I've got LA Girl, I've got ColourPop, I've got Wet n Wild, I've got a CoverGirl one, I've got Juvia's Place, you know. And whereas when it comes to high end, I believe I have Tarte Shape Tape that I paid full price for. Jeffree Star, I didn't pay full price for my Too Faced one. I didn't pay full price for my Kat Von D one. So when it comes to concealers, I feel like that's something that, I mean, I just want to spend less money on it. But I don't think there's anything like particularly in the affordable or drugstore department that I'm like, oh boy, I buy so much more of that than I do in high end. Number 8, what drugstore brand do you think is overpriced? Pixi! I love so many of Pixi's products. I love a lot of their facial whatevers. You know, those 2 highlighters that were a collaboration with Aspen Ovard. I will be panning those. But I cannot tell you how many times their price point, which comparatively isn't that bad. Like, if you're looking at like high-end skincare at Sephora versus Pixi prices, you're like, yeah, there's a difference. But for being something at Target, you know, it's just like a touch above what I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll just blow that. Like, they're like powders are like $18. Their face stuff can go into like the 20s. You know, it's just a bit more. I don't think they're like, I wouldn't be like, oh yes, they're disgustingly, terribly overpriced. They're just peeking over that point where I feel comfortable just being like, yeah, sure, let's blow $24 on this face thing. Which ironically is funny because I have blown way more than $24 on a high-end face thing. I guess it's just the fact that in my mind, mentally, it's drugstore affordable. You know, you're like, eh. There was that one post, it showed someone, it was like, oh, when you see a $20 palette at the drugstore, and you're like, no. And then the next one is all like, when you see a $20 palette at Sephora, woo! It's that psychological mentality thing that just, I'm not sure what it does. But in my opinion, Pixi. Although, like I said, I love a lot of their shiz. Number 9, what is your favorite drugstore dupe? Insert Physicians Formula, the Healthy Foundation, duping out the Josie Moran Vibrancy Argan Oil Fluid Foundation. It's just pretty much almost spot on. I would say that the Josie Moran one, a little bit more liquidy, a little bit more, you know, probably lighter coverage maybe even. But like I said, if you like one, you'll love the other. If you want to try the one and you don't got the money, try the Physicians Formula. It's bomb freaking diggity. Number 10, what is the best drugstore eyeshadow formula? Now this is difficult for me because I do not have a lot of typical drugstore eyeshadow. I have a fair amount of affordable. I have ColourPop, I've got some Milani, I've got BH Cosmetics. I do have those like affordable options, but they're not drugstore. So, you know, kind of like the beginning, I'm gonna have to insert ColourPop. I'm sorry for all of y'all who can't get it. And I feel a little like, yeah, that's say ColourPop because they're not drugstore. You can't just waltz into Walmart or Walgreens or CVS and find them. I do appreciate the caveat in this that it says, you know, drugstore / affordable, because there is not an eyeshadow formula that I can get at Walmart that I would say, yes, this is good, this is worth the money. Number 11, what's the worst eyeshadow formula, drugstore eyeshadow formula? I don't know, in my opinion, they're all bad. I've tried Revlon, I've tried Maybelline. CoverGirl isn't that bad. You know, I just like, I don't, when I'm recommending affordable eyeshadow, like I said, Revlon, maybe, Maybelline, L'Oreal, it just doesn't come to my mind. Anything I've tried from them in the eyeshadow department has since been decluttered. Any of y'all who have been with me since the very beginning would probably remember that I had a fair amount of those, like, you know, affordable, staple, whatever brands eyeshadows, and they just didn't do it for me. Just compared, maybe not necessarily to other drugstore whatever, but to other affordable brands, they're just kind of So I don't necessarily have any particular one that comes to my mind, but just on a whole, I'm like, no. I mean, especially Revlon, when they came out with those $20 palettes, and those things sucked. Number 12, a drugstore brand you used to love but aren't crazy about anymore. Wet n Wild, you know? I loved them. I bought so much shiz from them. I had their blushes, I had their foundation, their liquid lipsticks, their highlighters. I drank so much Kool-Aid when it came to Wet n Wild. And I don't know if it's because they're not cruelty-free anymore, if it's because they lied about not being, you know, about being cruelty-free, but I'm just kind of over the Wet n Wild hype. Like, I remember Wet n Wild would come out with like a new limited edition, like, yeah, oh yeah, give it to me, yeah. Whereas now I'm just like, okay, all right, it's the same thing they do over and over and over again. I mean, I'll let y'all in on a little secret. Every time they do their Halloween shiz, essentially the highlighters that they have are the same shades. They just keep re-promoting them as other things. I know this because my dumb butt bought them a couple times, and then I was like, oh, wait. They had me good, and they were laughing to the bank with like $25 in duplicate highlighters. But you know, anymore, I don't see them kind of cutting edge anymore. They used to, you know, I mean, you remember they made the Mega Glow highlighter. Those. They did the loose highlighters when they came out with their liquid lipsticks. You know, they were the affordable brand that was coming out with these formulas that outperformed high end. And now they're just kind of caught in their little, oh, let's release these boxes and they're fun and they're whatever. I've just become fairly disillusioned with them over time. Number 13, a drugstore product you didn't expect to like but totally wowed you. We're just talking about all the Wet n Wild things, aren't we? And this was fairly recent. This was those like blush and highlighter duos that Wet n Wild came out with. I'd say about a year ago. I had points at Ulta, and so I bought them. You know, not really sure what I was going to be expecting, but the highlighter formula on those duos is superior to their Mega Glow ones. It was so smooth and glass-like on the skin. It was all sorts of cha-cha-cha-cha. Wearing that highlighter and those blushes made you look like an ethereal, otherworldly, and vaguely threatening creature. And as you all know, that is clearly the vibe that I'm going for. They were just really, really good. I'm not entirely sure what sort of expectations I had. I just kind of bought them, and it made me really, really sad because I'm not buying from them anymore, and these were just probably one of the best products they'd released in a while, especially considering the fact that that highlighter formula, if that was the formula of their typical Mega Glows, I would wear those things every day. Number 14, favorite affordable eyeshadow palette right now. They used the word affordable. I hate to, I want to talk about ColourPop, and I'm like, but I've talked about them so much. And then there's like the BH Cosmetics, those Sunday palettes that are apparently super limited edition and super sold out because BH Cosmetics is rude. I mean, I'm just gonna insert a whatever, the ColourPop monochromatic palettes. I love those. I'm wearing one of them on my eyes today. I am trying to hit pan on several of them. They are just, I mean, honestly, almost all of them are just super standard staples. I'm in Tennessee right now. I brought 90% of them with me because they're palettes that I know I can reach for and pull out, and 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna do me wrong. So yeah, although it says one that you're like loving right now, you're like favorite one right now. I mean, yeah, those are my favorite pretty much all the time, so I don't feel bad about that answer. 15. What brand has most improved? I would probably have to say CoverGirl, because I feel like they're a brand, I would say that they've improved just from the fact that they're no longer not cruelty free. I mean, that in and of itself is like worth everything to me, especially since they had so many good products. And y'all know back in the day, there was this one CoverGirl foundation. It was like this pink and purple packaging. I went through like 10 of those. And so seeing a company that was cruelty free, especially that was not cruelty free, go cruelty free, especially when you consider like NARS that was, and then they're like, want to sell in China, you know, gives me all sorts of warm fuzzies. So I would say that deserves all kinds of applause and a pat on the back in and of itself. And they've also got a lot of bomb diggity products. You know, a lot of people really like their dupe of the peach palette. Like I said, I really love their blushes, their highlighters. I want to try more from them. I'm on my low buy, so, you know, buying lip gloss or lipstick or, you know, excess blush or highlighter just isn't a thing for me right now. But one of these days I would like to do a like full face of CoverGirl. I think they are a brand that is listening to its consumers, and as such, you know, they're trying to stay in with the times. They're trying to be, you know, relevant without trying to be like too crazy. And I think as a brand moving forward and progressing with like the community and the market, that they've got a lot of future potential. 16. Best new line of products released at the drugstore. I'm honestly not entirely sure, because if we're talking about drugstore, I'm not sure I have an answer for this one, because I'm actually I'm fairly well versed in affordable products, but not necessarily just straight up drugstore. I mean, the CoverGirl new foundation is really, really, really good. I mean, take a shot every time I say CoverGirl. Don't do that. I do not condone that. Unless y'all want to, then you do you. I'm not your mom. I'm just sitting here trying to think, like, what is a new line of products that's been released at the drugstore? I don't know. My mind is blanking. If I think of something while I'm editing, I will insert it here to attempt to seem some kind of intelligent. But right off the top of my head, I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm on my low buy and I'm out of it. I don't know. Then 17, drugstore product you have loved for years. I gotta go with the Milani baked blushes. I have had those for I don't know how many years. We're talking like pre-YouTube channel, which is kind of a bad thing because that means I've had them for over 4 years. But those are one of those things that, like, I bought them and I love them and I use them, and they're kind of one of those tried and true. I mean, I love Luminoso. I love that new one they did, the Bella Bellini. If you love an illuminating, glowy, peachy blush, get you that Bella Bellini shiz. It will rock your peach, glowy, loving world. But those are the answers to these questions that I have for you. It was so funny because going into this, I was like, oh yeah, I know so much about affordable. I know so much about drugstore. And then sitting down and really thinking about drugstore in its truest heart of heart, where you think about, you know, those brands you can get at Walmart, CVS, and whatever, you know, where you don't have to go to a specialty store or order online. I was really kind of uneducated, and I was like, oh, I thought I was going to just kind of knock this out of the park and have really easy answers, but it actually took a little bit more thought and thinking and thoughtful processing for me to come up with my conclusions. So we're learning something new every day. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts about what I have said today, maybe answer one or two of the questions down below. I love hearing about all different kinds of products. I've tried so many different things recommended by y'all. I don't think any of y'all have steered me wrong yet, and I just always love hearing y'all's thoughts and opinions. I do apologize for not replying and responding as much as I used to. Things have just been a little bit crazy for me, so I haven't had nearly as much time to dedicate to that sort of thing, but I hope to get back into that habit very soon. But thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real. Mwah.